Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. By now, I'm sure you've all had plenty of turkey, mashed potatoes, and gravy, and green bean casserole, all sorts of food. Well, since you're stuffed, I'm sure you don't want to do any physical activity, so what better than to watch a classic movie? Now, I really wanted to watch Captain John Smith and Pocahontas with you all this year, but I was unable to find a copy. That was going to be my little surprise review for today, Thanksgiving, but I guess we'll have to save it for next year. Instead, I thought to myself, well, what's another frontier movie with involving Indians? And I came up with Last of the Mohicans. And this movie actually is perfect for this holiday because it shows it's not just a cowboys and Indians film, fighting against each other. It shows that the Indians did work with the pioneers to make this a great country. They weren't always fighting. So, Last of the Mohicans, I'm not reviewing the 1993 one with Daniel Day-Lewis, but this one came out in 1936, and it stars Randolph Scott, Benny Barnes, Henry Wilcoxon, and Bruce Cabot. So we're stuffed, just lay back down on the couch, and I still have my pilgrim hat on because of course it's Thanksgiving. I gotta get use out of it because this year I'm only getting 2 Thanksgiving reviews in. Well, let's talk about the film. So Randolph Scott himself, I thought he looked a lot like Errol Flynn, and actually they starred in a film together, which is Virginia City, and I'm curious to watch it now to see these 2 handsome actors that look alike together. Well, he plays Hawkeye, not the Marvel Hawkeye, but he plays Hawkeye, a frontiersman who he was basically adopted into the Mohican tribe, and he's wandering with his Mohican brother and his Mohican father figure. And so the war between the French and this takes place during, I assume, the 1700s. The French and the British are looking at fighting each other. So the British are asking these frontiersmen, hey, you need to help us fight the French. And Randolph Scott really doesn't want anything to do with it. And of course, the Indians, as we all know, the Indians were on the French side, most of the Indians, not all of them. And Magua is the evil Indian in the film, played by Bruce Cabot. And I want to note that I reviewed Bruce Cabot in another film earlier, and that was in Sundown. And I beat him up pretty hard for not acting very well because he has such a monotonous tone of voice, doesn't really show any emotion. But in this movie, he found the perfect role for him because all he had to do was Magua. Just basically talk very monotonously and look like an Indian. And he actually did look like an Indian. A lot of the natives in this film were played by Caucasian actors, which is sort of a bummer. I wish that a lot of films from the classic era had real Native American actors in it, but it is what it is. And we have Bruce Cabot as Magua, and he does an all right job in this picture, I will say that. So the plot is basically Randolph Scott is involved with Benny Barnes because he wants to protect her. He's this gentleman of a frontiersman, and he's with his native father and his native brother. And Henry Wilcoxon is this British army man who is just a jerk. And for those that have seen the Daniel Day-Lewis version, you probably already know the story, or who have read the James Fenimore Cooper novel. But so the scenes that truly sparked interest to me were in this film, the canoe chase scene, and there's a canoe chase scene in the Daniel Day-Lewis one as well, but I really thought that they did a great job with the canoe chase scene in this picture. The settings in general, they filmed a lot of the movie outside on location, which I thought created a great atmosphere. It really gave you the feeling that you were out in the frontier. So I liked that a lot. I felt like the picture was a little bit too long. It could have been shorter, but overall it's a great adaptation of the book. I don't want to talk too much about the film because it's a Frontiers movie. I feel like, you should experience it. I recommend it. I'm going to give it 3 stars. It's a good adventure film. I thought Randolph Scott was great as Hawkeye, as the leading man. He definitely carried the movie on his back and made it a great picture. I didn't think any of the actors were crummy at all. The script was a little shaky, and some of the fighting scenes were a little bit ridiculous. For example, near the end, Bruce Cabot's character Magua has to fight against the last of the Mohicans, and it was pretty silly because they had this little tomahawk fight, and you'll probably chuckle at it too because they're just like basically just a sissy fight. It doesn't compare, of course, to the Daniel Day-Lewis one, but after they threw the tomahawks down, it ended up being a pretty good fight to the death between these two Native Americans. I want to read to you what Philip Dunn, one of the writers of the film, had to say about it. And Philip Dunn is really popular because he went on to write The Ghost and Miss Muir and How Green Was My Valley and plenty of other films. But he had this to say. He was a little bit disappointed with the ending result. He says, "The film is only a pallid ghost of what John and I originally wrote. Ours was a full-blooded screenplay, combining adventure and excitement with what we considered some respectable poetry in the love story between the patrician English girl and the young Mohican brave. Above all, we painted an authentic picture of colonial American in the 18th century." And he goes on to say this, which is pretty harsh. "The film was appalling. In our absence, Eddie apparently had succumbed to the itch many producers have to tamper with the inactive scripts. I don't know what writers he had hired, but they had succeeded in turning our authentic 18th century period piece into a third-rate Western." And I kind of got the feel for that too. I'm sure they had some great ideas for the film, but there were definitely parts where you kind of thought, okay, this fight is kind of like cowboys and Indians, but the story of The Last of the Mohicans is just so enjoyable that I looked past cowboys and Indians, and it's a great picture. You can't go wrong with this story, so that's why it gets 3 stars. But if you're interested, I definitely recommend also to watch the Daniel Day-Lewis version of The Last of the Mohicans because it's just a wonderful picture. The music, the acting, the fighting, just everything is awesome about this movie. But that's going to be it for this Thanksgiving, everyone. You probably won't see this hat for another year, but I enjoyed being with you on this holiday, and pretty soon Christmas is coming up, so keep an eye out for plenty of Christmas movie reviews. Happy eating. Enjoy the leftovers. I know I will. Lots of turkey sandwiches, things like that, but hey, Black Friday too. Good luck shopping. I'm Ian Patrick. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and comment below because I love interacting with my viewers. It's why I do this. But have a good night and happy holidays.